Game away, Zambia versus Singapore. Zambia in the orange. Well, they make their intentions clear.
Contact goal defense.
Good start for Zambia.
Yeah, that was a nice long ball to goal shooter Lucy Jerry. It's a good way just to get past the Singapore defensive line, get the ball to the back end of the court.
Contact, goal attack.
Centre obstruction. Advantage offside centre. Advantage obstruction centre.
In the end, Zambia come away with it.
Obstructing. Swing defense. Yep.
Lovely high release there from Bwalia into Jerry. So a good start here from Zambia. Singapore just look a little bit on the back foot, and there's that long cross-court pass again. Singapore will need to keep their eye on that. It's worked the last couple of times down court for Zambia.
Singapore yet to get on the board. Zambia out to a 3-0 advantage. Brendan Wheeler caught on the edge of the circle. Now Singapore's away. Hui Fen Chen puts on the first goal for Singapore.
More confident shot there from Chen. She sort of poked at the ball a little bit in her first shot at goal. We saw it hit the front of the ring and bounce back. That one looked much better.
They look very efficient, the Zambian side.
Yeah, they do, and they're prepared to move the ball, and little sort of give and goes between the goal attack, Bwalia, and the goal shooter, Jerry. It's just been incredibly effective as they've got down there, and it's just got the Singaporean defence's head spinning.
Advantage offside wing defence. Zambia. Advantage offside wing defence.
Jen, the Zambian team have a nickname, and I'm going to give it a run. I'm not sure if I'm going to get it right. They're known as the Shepalopolo.
I see.
Back home. Now, if there's any Zambians listening, if I'm wrong, please correct me. You can do it on Twitter at LizzieLegsEllis, because I'd love to know how to pronounce it. We've sort of been looking everywhere. I didn't want to disturb the Zambians in their warm-up. It would have been a bit unfair, asking trivial questions in a reasonably important match. So, if you know the correct pronunciation, let us know.
A nickname apparently shared by the country's football team as well. So somebody I'm sure will come to our aid.
There's some fairly smart people, much smarter than us, Chen, watching this World Cup. Oh, that's a beautiful drive there from Chen. She used So as a little dummy, ran around her. And it's a great run along the baseline. So a bit of an uncharacteristic start here from the Singaporean shooters. We've seen them be fairly accurate through the course of this competition.
Offside. Pass inside. Centre contact. Advantage offside centre. Advantage obstruction wing defence. Goal defence.
Singapore close the gap to just one. Starting to warm to their task.
Offside centre, free pass. Vantage contact, wing defence.
Right across the rim. Oh, nice balance by the Zambian goalkeeper, Agnes Chigumbo. But Singapore win it back.
Yeah, lovely take there from Bozura at centre for Singapore. And a real contrast and approach between these two teams. Singapore playing low and flat, lots of movement in that goal circle. You can see the rotating shooters, where one shooter runs forward, the other shooter runs back, and they continue to rotate those positions. Whereas Zambia prepared to go the high ball and play more a direct style of play between the goal shooter and the goal attacker and look for each other.
And Annie Mukamba did well. Wing defence for Zambia, and the captain picked that up off the edge of the circle. Oh, what a ball. Straight through the middle. Elizabeth Bwalia made no mistake. So 5-3 and possession for Zambia.
Oh, nice attempt there from Mickey Lin. Singapore had dropped back into a zone defence off that centre pass, and if you're going to play a zone, you've got to be prepared to have a go at the intercept, and Singapore did just that, just a little bit late on the attempt from Lim.
So 7 or so minutes into the quarter, we've got a time. Injury called by Singapore.
And it's Ang, the wing defence for Singapore. Just went down very gracefully then, very slowly.
So Charles Zulu having plenty to say to his huddle. And they've started very well, Zambia. 6-3 they lead after about 7 or so minutes. The trainer just is saying to Ang, sort of sit up.
So Zambia one of 4 African nations in this tournament. It's a record to have 4 African nations within the top 16. 3 of them have finished in the top 8. South Africa, Uganda and Malawi, who we just saw run Jamaica to within a goal. An exciting game.
And imagine that would have put an African nation in the top 4. So time for Singapore, I guess, to regroup. Ruth Aiken looking on with a touch of concern, perhaps, or perhaps not.
You wouldn't know. She always looks happy. Even when she's giving some fairly critical feedback to her players, she's got a smile on her face.
She was always a delight to interview, Ruth Aiken, when she was the coach of New Zealand, because you knew whether or not she liked your question or not by the blink and how long the blink was. Her eyes at times could stay closed for quite some time. You knew then that she wasn't so keen on that question. But she was actually always very good to deal with.
That's better from So, what we're used to seeing from her. So, Singapore shooting at 50%, Zambia at 100%. Making the most of every opportunity that they get.
Oh, easy pickings. Just the ball not placed exactly where Lucy Jerry wanted it. She was off balance. So, chance here for Singapore. Close this gap. Nice drive by Lim through the court. Oh, look, the spin on the ball. Great shot, Charmaine So. And opportunity here for Singapore to draw level. Looks as though Singapore might be starting to find their groove. 6-all.
Oh, great drive. Walia, and she finishes it off beautifully. Just through a turn of speed then. And Walia is dominating the shooting, the goal attack for Zambia. 6 from 6 at 100%. Lucy Jerry 1 from 1 at 100%. Coming into this game, Lucy Jerry had shot 132 goals at 84%. And Walia just the 33 goals at 68%. So they've reversed their roles almost.
Contact. Goal defense.
So the Singaporean zone defence is actually doing a good job, and it's doing what it's supposed to do. It's making the Zambians throw across court, but the next step is to make sure you have a go at the intercept. Singapore have only done that really on the one occasion, unsuccessfully, and that's better from Hirabalan. She's been good at goal defence through the course of this tournament, Pramila Hirabalan.
Oh, the big jump in.
Oh, bad luck. She did everything right, Hirabalan. Just deemed by the umpire to have been responsible for the goal shooter losing the ball, but that was a bit of a risk then taken by Lucy Jerry. The big step in. The moment you step in, you give the defenders the ability to stay in your face and in your space.
This is good pressure from Zambia, pushing Singapore back down court. Chen down the sideline.
Advantage offside, goal attack. Advantage obstruction wing. Advantage contact centre.
And that was good patience from Singapore. Didn't get through the first time, went back, reset, got there the next.
Oh, that passing between Jerry and Walia is an absolute feature so far of this game. And if you look at the goal assists, 4 of them have come from Lucy Jerry at goal attack. It's unusual for a goal shooter to dominate that stat. Normally they're on the receiving end rather than the giving end. 1 goal assist for Walia and 1 for Carol Muno in wing attack.
Back to a 2-goal margin. 3.5 minutes remaining in the first quarter. Margaret Mutafella picking up this pass from the back. Oh, nice play, Zambia. Oh, and they get a bit of speed going. They look impressive.
Well done, Mutafella. I said earlier, Jen, she's oldest player in this competition at 45. Would not know it.
No. Interesting comments from her during the week saying how much she enjoys playing with her teammates, many of whom are younger than her children. Great. What an inspiration she must be, both to them and to
That is
many
just
others
so
in Zambia.
impressive. Yeah, so impressive.
She's a grandmother. So there's hope for us all.
Well, no. She's the shining light, but the rest of us, Jen, struggle sitting. Great take on the baseline. It's been an athletic start for Zambia. Gwalia has been impressive. So much so that Jerry steps away and lets her take the penalty shot. So 11 from 11 in the Zambian goal attack. And she's just carving up the Singapore defensive line. Singapore need to do something different. They've been putting on the defensive zone. They need to maybe think about going back to a one-on-one style of play. They've got to get this Zambian front line thinking about what they're doing, maybe getting them to change their approach into the circle. Charmaine Soward had a nice little run of goals. Missed the first one, but then reeled off 4 in a row. A little miss there. Could prove costly.
Contact, goal, base.
So at the moment, this game going against the rankings that these two teams came into this tournament with. Singapore 14, Zambia 15. And so far, probably it's fair to say there hasn't been a lot of movement from those rankings. Of course, Uganda being the one big exception, getting up and over Fiji into the top 8.
Contact. Goalie play.
Well, one of the criticisms of the draw has been that the way it's structured is that it did stop some of those teams ranked or almost sort of 8 through to 10 from making too much of a move, because they ended up in preliminary pools with Australia, New Zealand or Jamaica, England. And whilst that gave us some pretty good start to the tournament in terms of some great games, it did prove a bit of a disadvantage.
Well, that wasn't a bad idea, because the time is running out in this first quarter. It was worth a go. There's only 2 seconds on the clock. And there is the whistle for the end of the first quarter. Good quarter for Zambia. They look to have had the best of this clash against Singapore. They go to the break leading 14-8. So high fives all round in the Zambian sideline huddle.
And why not? Zambia had a pretty good quarter. They opened really well. Singapore ran it back at them and they were actually sitting 6-all, but it was an 8-2 run from Zambia in the second half of that quarter that you saw them open up that margin. And if we take a look at the numbers, both teams fairly even in the amount of attempts that they've had, but it's the accuracy that's letting Singapore down, shooting at 57%. Charmaine So at 67, Hui Fen Chen at 50%. Zambia have dominated the rebound, so for Singapore, they're not shooting the goals and they're not following up and getting hold of the ball on the second attempt. An intercept each for both teams. Margaret Mutafela picking up the clean ball for Zambia, and Quinny Lin, or Mickey Lin, picking up the clean intercept there for Singapore. So it was a pretty good opening from Zambia. We weren't really sure of what to expect between these two teams. They're both fairly evenly matched, but they did come into this game with one win between them in the entire World Cup, and that was Singapore's win on the first day against Sri Lanka. Zambia have battled all week, and you just get the feeling that they're sick and tired of coming off second best on the scoreboard, and they want to make a difference today. Their defensive play has been excellent. They've really stopped the Singaporean entry to the top of the circle, and in attack they've been incredibly direct, and the play between the goal shooter and the goal attack between Lucy Jerry and Elizabeth Gwalia has been particularly impressive. And Gwalia, 12 from 13 in that first quarter. She has had a blistering opening start to this match.
So we await the second quarter 14-8, Zambia's lead over Singapore. And there's a change for Singapore. You coming on. Coming into the goal shoot position. Second quarter underway. Zambia leading Singapore 14-8.
Contact goal defense. Step in, step in.
That's a better start from Singapore. They need to go direct to the circle and then direct to the post. We know that they can shoot long. And they may very well be forced to do that. That's a beautiful long ball. Woodafella has been so good for Zambia in this match, and it's only early days. Cheeky. Unusual shooting action from Gualia. She just holds the ball in the right hand. If you watch, for example, a Nat Medhurst goal attack for Australia shoot, she'll hold the ball predominantly in her right hand and use her left hand to balance. But no such thing as a left hand from Gualia. She just gets the arm up and shoots it. I guess in Australia you'd call it old school. Here I'd call it effective.
Well, Elizabeth Gualia has done a beautiful job there. Kept that ball alive down at one end of the court. Has raced back now to the other. Here she is. Big lift across to Brenda Mwila. Interesting, we've seen a number of countries here, Liz, that have got this sort of combination. The taller, more statuesque goal shoot and these whippet-like goal attacks.
Well, you see it from the #1 country in Australia, really through to a team like Zambia. And the one team that is noticeably bucking the trend is New Zealand, and they're undefeated.
So far.
Put your fist down, Jen. It's unbecoming of you to do a fist pump mid-commentary.
Unbecoming of you to give me away on air.
Oh, no secrets here. If I can dob you in, I will. Now, I've had an answer, actually, to how you pronounce the Zambian team's nickname. That's from Queen Mwai, from the Queen on Twitter. The Zambian team is Chipolo Polo.
Chipolo Polo, beautiful.
Hope I pronounced that correctly.
I don't know that the Singapore team has a nickname. A lot of the teams do, of course, these days. Queens of Malawi, the Sunshine Girls of Jamaica.
Calypso Girls of Trinidad. Bajan Gems.
Roses of England. Proteas of South Africa.
Yeah.
She Cranes of Uganda.
Oh, my fave. Got them coming up later today against New Zealand. Should be another ripping game.
Well, they gave Jamaica a mighty fright yesterday, Uganda. And New Zealand's probably still getting over the fright they got from Malawi the day before. Zambia pushed through to a 10-goal advantage, 19-9. Great guard on the pass. Annie Mukamba, she's done a couple of those, the captain. Two deflections, 3 pickups for Mukamba.
And you see Lucy Jerry at goal shooter, shooting with that same one-handed style. This is the thing, Jen, that I love about a World Cup. You get such a diverse range of shooting styles, of playing styles, and as much as I love the ANZ Championships, one of the effects of it has been that the Australian and New Zealand style of play has just got that little bit closer to a degree, whereas you come to a World Cup and there's a definite African style, there's a Caribbean style of play. And for teams like Zambia, who haven't had a huge amount of international experience outside of Africa, they've developed you know, almost in a vacuum, so they haven't been influenced, so they've got their own definitive style, and it's just great to watch. And it also means that you get players doing things that you're not used to seeing, and to a degree, you know, speaking from an Australian point of view, because you're so well coached and there's an Australian style of play, players tend not to take risks, whereas you see, like Waika Wenda's a great example. She'll take risks with the ball, she'll do things that you don't expect, and I love seeing that. I love seeing players do that.
Singapore need to do something here. They're keeping Zambia out at the moment, but this 9-goal lead needs to be stemmed from... Oh, and there's that one not falling.
Unlucky for Singapore. They did everything right. They actually doubled back defensively onto Boalia, and they just cut down the feed into her, but it was Lucy Jerry who stood up and delivered.
Would have fell up all over Chen.
Take that. Stay.
Little fella feeding from the back. Oh, what a dodge on the baseline, but it went unnoticed.
Oh, Hirabalan finally, she gets a touch and straight back to the Zambian line.
Oh, and that was great patience, and she did the big slap hand. Brendan Wheeler, the centre for Zambia. Everyone rushed through, leaving the passage open to goal.
Advantage contact center. Goalkeeper. Goalkeeper. Up. Up with her.
So just take a look at this shooting style. Incredibly unusual. The left hand doesn't come into play, but she's still got a lovely follow through, flick of the wrist. It's a very wristy shooting style. That's very African.
She's just 20, Elizabeth Boyle, so they've got a huge range of ages in this Zambian team. I think their average age is 30.
Attack contact, advantage offside.
A couple of youngsters and then a few older players.
Structure with defence.
So halfway mark, they're managing to hang on to this 10-goal advantage, Zambia. Oh, yes, Chen, forced to hop.
Yeah, that was really good defensive effort from Zambia. Just covered you and really gave Hui Fin Chen nowhere to go. That's a real difference in style between the two teams that we're seeing. When Singapore get the ball down to their shooting end at the moment, it's almost one off the options for the passer, whereas if you look at Zambia, the passer generally has 2, sometimes 3 players to go to. One of those players is generally Elizabeth Boalia.
So danger time really for Singapore. This lead is now out to 11.
Advantage contact.
Lynn went for it.
Wing defense contact.
Better from Lynn, closing off the baseline.
Oh, clever. Boilia saw that Hirabalan had her eyes down, and cheeky little pass. As a defender, you must keep your eyes up, because you know that the moment a mid-court player sees with your eyes down, the ball's going to part your hair.
Goal attack.
Advantage contact. Advantage obstruction goal attack.
Singapore managing to hold up Zambia on this occasion.
Just a pressure release coming through the penalty. You can just see the moment the penalty gets given away, the ball just flows so much quicker into the top of the circle. And Singapore built really good pressure then.
Contact.
You have to be so careful that you're not the player that releases all that pressure down the court.
Advantage contact center.
Oh, what a long shot. Great work from you. And that's a lovely take from Jerry.
Contact. Wing defense. Center third.
This quarter at the moment, 13-7 in favour of Zambia. Very similar really to the first quarter, which was 14-8. So at the moment, Singapore finding no answer to put a stop to this Zambian onslaught.
Advantage obstruction.
One option for Singapore is to bring on Lily Chen, who is an incredibly tall goalkeeper, and whilst they're able to almost get second chances, Singapore, through the defence of Lim and Hirabalan, they're not able to capitalise on it because they just don't have the height to contest for the rebounds. Another cheeky little pass.
It was almost too fast for Jerry.
It was. So, but perhaps if Chen comes in there, if Chen comes in there, then the long arms just might offer something different. So that's one option for Singapore.
There, inside.
31 attempts for Zambia as opposed to 24 for Singapore. Tough when you're simply not getting the shots at goal. And then you're only shooting at 71% to add to your problems.
Holding. Wing.
Advantage obstruction wing attack. Goal kick contact.
Gosh, they've been good, the Zambian shooters. 91% at the moment for the pair of them.
And they've shared the load really well. It started off with Elizabeth Boilia shooting the bulk of the goals. I think it was almost, 10 goals to her to 1 for Lucy Jerry, but that's evened up. That's a really good sign when you see shooters sharing the load. It just means if one gets shut down, the other one starts to come back up. So we saw the Singaporean defenders doubling back onto Boilia earlier on in this quarter, and Lucy Jerry has stepped it up, and she's now almost the target goal shooter for them. So if we look at the first quarter, Boilia shot 12 from 13, Jerry shot 2 from 3, and they've switched that around in this second quarter. Jerry has shot so far 11 from 12, and Boilia 5 from 5. So just a reaction to that Singaporean defence. And that makes it tough for Singapore because you've got to shut them both down, and that's really hard.
The dying moments of the second quarter, a 12-goal margin remains. Mutafela right over the top. She's retiring after this tournament. She said she really just kept playing so she could get to a World Cup, and then she will go home to Zambia and retire happy.
Oh, good on her. And she could retire happy with a win under her belt if her team keeps this up.
Contact wing defense, advantage offside. Contact wing defense, advantage offside. Yep.
And that will probably be the last act of the first half, as indeed there is the whistle for the end of the first 30 minutes. Well, 2 very good quarters for Zambia. They lead Singapore at the break by 31 goals to 20. Well, Singapore looking relaxed as they take the court.
Changes for Singapore. Chen is on at goalkeeper. Olivia Flanagan is on wing defence. And just that little change-up might be enough to drag Singapore back into this game. Lily Chen, as I said earlier, has got incredibly long arms and long reach, so she may just be the change-up that Singapore need. And Flanagan in at wing defence is a real hustling type of player, so she'll put the body on the line, and that might be enough just to upset the Zambian rhythm.
Bond obstruction way.
There's been a few tweaks too for Zambia. Margaret Mutafela moving back to goalkeep. It's a swap, in fact. Agnes Chingambo moving out to goal defence.
Joyce Mwanza on at wing attack, and Naomi Changwei on at centre as well for Zambia. So clearly they're happy to tinker with the winning line. And Singapore's shooting woes continue.
Pressure from Singapore. Oh, what a great pass from Mutafela, straight through the middle.
Mutafela's got almost an Australian pass on it, just a wind up with the one arm. And a bullet-like pass. Oh, bad luck, Chen. She did exactly what Singapore needed to do, which was to stand her ground and put her arms up. But she was a little late in getting to her ground, so because she was moving, she gave away the contact. Chen already having the desired effect. Boilia not confident to go to the post.
But despite her presence, look at the start from Zambia. 3 quick goals. Oh, Mutafela out hunting. Now Singapore are on the board in this third quarter.
Contact, goal defense. Ball is obstructed, goal attack.
Wow, great stretch over the ball from Lily Chen, but made absolutely zero difference. So the extra stretch in defence hasn't bothered Lucy Jerry. It seems to have just put Elizabeth Borrelia off a little bit. Doesn't want to go to the post in this quarter.
They're going to need a few more goals like that, Singapore, if they're to get some headway.
I think it's Agnes Chinkambo who has gone down. She's clutched at her left leg. Oh, no, it's not. It's a...
Wow, it's Bwalia,
It's Bradley, the goal attack. Sorry, she's down at the defensive end of the court, which confused me.
Well, she's been pivotal, really, for Zambia.
She has. This could be a really big moment for them.
17 from 18. She shot. She looks in a lot of pain.
She does.
So look at the reshuffling of the bibs here. Lucy Jerry whisking her goal shoot bib off, and perhaps she will go to goal attack. As you can see, yep, there it goes on. So she is flexible, Lucy Jerry. Oh, and she's been carried from the court. Well, Margaret Mutafila was going to pick her up, but I think she can do it herself. But they're taking great care with her. Let's see if we can see what happened. Oh, I think she just went right over on the ankle.
Yeah.
Good applause from the crowd. Oh, and she was having a fine game, Walla. That's a sad sight.
It is an unfortunate sight, but on the other side of the ledger, it's an opportunity for Singapore. But I reckon they'll only get a couple of moments to make the most of this opportunity. They've got to try and disrupt Zambia's play while they're just trying to bed in this new attacking line.
So there we see Jerry now out at goal attack. Ah, Lily Chen, she gets one.
And Diana Banda, sorry, for Zambia at goal shooter.
She is the woman who played for Zambia at their last World Cup appearance all those years ago in Christchurch, 1999. She was only 20.
Well, Diana Banda said in an interview with her local paper before she left home, there was no secret to how she'd managed to keep a spot in the national team across 16 years. I'm very fit because I'm always training. So that's one way to keep the youngsters out, isn't it? She's quite bolshy, actually, about her team's chances before they got here. She stated, we've come here to win. We want to take the World Cup home to Zambia. Well, they might not do that, but they will go home knowing that they've put out a pretty good performance on court today. And it's quite possibly the performance they've been looking for across this World Cup.
And it's good to see, isn't it? Because if it's a start, I mean, you think back a few years ago when Malawi sort of came onto the scene and they were clearly promising, but look what's happened to them since. And perhaps, you know, Uganda's turn for that to happen this year. Zambia could well be next.
Yeah, well, Malawi came onto the scene in '95, so relative newcomers to international netball. But I think in that first World Cup, they finished maybe 12th. And, gee, they went within a whisker today of creating some history. You can see how much it meant. Some of the players, Cindy Sintawe, Michael Wenda, absolutely inconsolable at the end of the game. Just could not believe the opportunity that had just slipped through their grasp.
This is a quandary for international netball, isn't it? Because each country, and I'm thinking of the big ones, clearly want to keep on looking after themselves and getting the better and be the best they can. But they also have to take care of the other countries, don't they? Otherwise, there's no international game.
That's right. And it's a hard one because the ANZ Championship has really, I think, been part of the reason why we see a concertina effect. The top teams are getting closer to each other, and it's no surprise that Malawi, on the back of Moika Mwenda playing regularly in that competition, you know, she's almost dragged the rest of her team along with her. But there is a responsibility on those top nations to really pull the next ones through. And you just wonder how little funding it would take to see an African nation win the World Cup. But that's pretty self-defeating if you're Australia or New Zealand, because yes, you want better international competition, but you don't want to lose the opportunity to win World Cup, so it's a hard one.
It's encouraging, though, to see, you know, international coaches. We saw before Jill McIntosh out there, technical director, Jamaica. I mean, look at this game. Ruth Aiken, former world champion coach, here with Singapore. A few other coaches dotted around, but I guess, is that enough, though, just to sort of, you know, send your well, not that they are being sent out, but those other coaches going around the smaller nations?
It's a pretty good start, and because these coaches do so much more than coach the national team, and Norma Plummer's a really good example in South Africa. So she, yes, at the moment she's the head coach of the national side, and you can see the difference that has made already in that team. But the other thing that she's trying to do, and she has said to South Africa she will only come and work with them on the proviso that she can now go into South Africa and coach the coaches and put into place a coaching infrastructure where coach education is something that is really focused on. And if you can have a number of coaches within your country coaching the same way, the same style of play, then from a grassroots level you start to develop players through to the national team. They don't have to get to the national team to be developed. It happens from when they're very young.
You know what I'm going to say, though, isn't it? I mean, all that takes money, and is that not perhaps the root, or one of the root problems that netball faces? You know, it's a women's sport, and in so many countries women's sport doesn't get the coverage it deserves, therefore it doesn't perhaps get the advertising, therefore the money doesn't flow.
Yep, but that's no reason to not try. So, you know, there's money going into places like Ethiopia, which traditionally doesn't have a lot of netball players, but one of the great things about netball is it empowers women, because not only do they learn to pass and catch, obviously from a fitness point of view it's great, but empowers them to be administrators, to be coaches, to run the show, to be a treasurer, to understand how all that works. And it has a greater flow and effect than simply sport. And empowering women is key to so many places. So that is all being done. But you're right, there is, if you had a huge pot of money that was never ending, you could do it quickly. In this way, I have no doubt it will happen. It will just be a little bit slower than we'd like.
Oh, well done, Zambian defence.
Oh, Mickey Lynn flew. That's what Singapore need. They set up this zone and they make sure that the Zambians need to go long or cross court, but they've got to have someone committing to the intercept. And Lynn at the moment is the one doing that.
I guess that's the danger for Singapore. Lily Chen went out, leaving room at the base for the two Zambian shooters. Banda.
Yeah, you can see Chen wanted to go for the intercept, but really, given her height and the fact that she's still learning the game in terms of footwork, she must stay at the post and she must just be there and be a nuisance. Get a hand up over the shot.
Zambia really extending now. That was into the arms of Lisa McPhail.
A great pick up there from Naomi Chungwe. She's been pretty good in centre since she came on. One of the smallest players on court, but her speed certainly makes up for that, and her ability to read the play defensively helps her out as well.
Nice one too between Banda and Jerry. Zambia pushing away 12-6 in this third quarter.
Oh, that's a nice one too. Between those two players.
They look certainly well drilled, the Zambian side.
They've missed nothing since Walia has gone off the court and Banda has come on, so she's shooting at 5 from 5 in that goal shooter position. And Lucy Jerry on her merry way, 22 from 24 at 92%. He hasn't been too bothered by the move out to goal attack.
Short again from you. The big heave down court.
Violence obstructing, goal attack. Violence contact, waiting outside.
Good finish from Jerry, and Jerry and Bunda are almost playing a positional swap. Almost as soon as the ball gets down, Jerry just sits back in the circle and lets Bunda do the work out in front of us. That's confusing for the defenders as well.
Well, Mei Ling Yu, the goal shoot for Singapore, has called time. Just over 4 minutes remaining in this quarter, and it's not gone well, really, for Singapore. Zambia just extending their lead. They're closing in on a 20-goal advantage. I don't know that many picked that it would be this sort of difference between these two sides.
No, and I get the sense just from watching Zambia at the start of the week to now, they've improved through the course of the competition. So for them, certainly just the exposure to the intensity, to the teams that they've played, and when you look at their run, they've had... Just listen to their coach.
Saw the coach there just make sure that his players stayed on court. That's one of the little rules during an injury timeout. The players can't cross that sideline. Can only presume she had a knock on the nose.
Yeah, so if you look at the way that Zambia has come through this competition, they've played Uganda, Wales, Fiji, Trinidad, Samoa, and if you look at their scoring, they've actually improved as the games have gone on. Started off scoring in the 30s and the 40s and the 50s against Fiji, 51 against Fiji, 53 against Samoa. So they have improved, especially in their attacking play as these games have gone on. And that's a great sign. That really bodes well for them for future World Cups. But you're right, Jen, they need further international exposure, they need development. And the one thing that really tends to take players off guard when they hit something like a World Cup is just that step up in intensity. And you can see with a team like Zambia, they've got really good athletes who can cope with that physically, but it's understanding it mentally. And that can take, you know, a couple of weeks to do. And by the time they sort of get it, the World Cup's over. So that's why they need continued international exposure.
And look, we've been talking a lot about Zambia, but probably a lot of those things apply just as equally to Singapore.
Yeah, absolutely.
Talking to Ruth Aiken well before this World Cup about just the challenges some of her players face, and she said simply one of them is that they are full-time students, full-time jobs. You know, netball is just a small part of what they have to do every day. And she said often a lot of them spend a lot of time travelling to training and home again.
Yeah. So a lot of those things. Oh, well done. Cliffin Chen read it beautifully. And no surprise that the ball she picked up was the cross-court ball, which is what their defensive structure tries to set up. And couldn't quite finish off her own good work. Yeah, so they're not the sort of things that tend to really get in the way of the preparations of the Diamonds or the Silver Ferns. There are some mums in the Silver Ferns team. Jodie Brown is one of them. So she's got a few competing priorities. You can tell your job to go away, but it's hard to tell your kids to go away.
That's right. Interesting, Tamsin Greenway in the England side this year is the first mother to play for England. But really, yeah, Zambia is way ahead of those countries with their grandmother in this side. Imagine all the responsibilities she has.
Temepara Bailey went close. As a newly minted grandmother. We tried to talk her into playing just one game of ANZ Champs so she could be the first player in the first grandmother to play the ANZ Champs. She wasn't keen.
22 goals now between these two sides. Yeah, I think the point Ruth Aiken was making was just this massive commitment that's required from these players to get here, to get to a tournament, to get time off work to get here. And yeah, you have to respect that.
You do, and it's why you see these games played with such great spirit, because these players want to be here. They've moved heaven and earth to get here, and they're determined to enjoy it. Does remind you, I guess, what the essence of sport is.
And then, of course, the supporters who they bring with them, who are often the stars of the show.
And who really rival the players for the passion they bring to the game.
So I had the pleasure of riding on a train the other day with a group of the Ugandan supporters. My word, they were having a good time.
So great quarter here from Zambia, but not so good from Singapore. Zambia leading 18-7. It's been slim pickings for Singapore.
Joyce Mwanza called for the contact.
Better play from Singapore, far more direct up the middle of the court. That's where you want to go.
Gee, they'll be disappointed with this quarter, Singapore. It's their lowest quarter score so far. Unless they can get one very quickly, they'll equal it.
Cheeky. So Charmaine So has been watching Waikam Wenda off the post.
So they do add one more. Singapore move through to 8 for the quarter. But just 28 for the match. They trail Malawi 49-28. Another good quarter for Zambia. They've just got better, 14 in the first, 17 goals in the second, and now 18 there in the third.
uzatenga yose mabola ona fulu tulingana tose tuyenda one side kazungulu kasoka kusia kaenda koendo kapena.
Relatively even on the goal attempts, a few more for Zambia still, and still that far superior shooting percentage, 94% as opposed to 62. Still encouraging for Singapore, more intercepts in that quarter than Zambia, 3-2, but too many turnovers. And Zambia came out with a hiss and a roar in this third quarter, and really it was Singapore who needed to. They'd made a few changes.
They most certainly did. And really Singapore had the opportunity to run a few back when Zambia were forced to make changes through injury to their front line. But what was really impressive about Zambia was the fact that they did not miss a beat. And there is Elizabeth Bwalia just going down with an ankle injury, so we do hope that she is okay. But that Zambian front line missed nothing without her there, which is impressive given the fact that Bwalia up to then had scored 17 from 18 goals at 94%. But Lucy Jerry was really able to take over that goal attack position. Diana Bunda came on, shot 6 from 6 at 100%. So just the simple shooting percentages in terms of numbers tell a huge amount of the story. Zambia shooting at 94%, Singapore shooting at 62%. There's only 7 attempts, the difference between the two teams, yet there's 21 goals difference. And that accuracy and lack of accuracy has hurt Singapore. They've just got the one rebound to their name, and that was Mi Ling Yu that collected it, but then she missed the shot that she took that rebound from. So Singapore are going to look back at this game and think there were so many chances that they did not capitalise on.
Maybe I can more yes. Yes. Sometimes I can think they pick me
And the man who knows every stat there is to know about netball, Todd Miller, he's just informed me that if Zambia can take this through, this will be their first win, obviously, in this World Cup in Sydney, and their first one since a win way back in 1999 in Christchurch over Papua New Guinea. Little untidy Zambia, but they're away. 49-28, they lead Singapore.
So Lucy Jerry having time to, in that 3 seconds, to look around, shout out some instructions and shoot the goal successfully. So she's a great multitasker.
And there's been a few changes from both sides.
Yep.
Shelby Coe on at centre for Singapore.
Miriam Milan back on at goal defence. She replaces Mickey Lin, the captain. Lily Chen maintains her spot at goalkeeper. Hui Fin Chen has moved back to goal shooter, and Charmaine So is back on, this time at goal attack. Yvonne Kaholo is on at goal defence for Zambia, and Petronella Walia is on at wing defence. So changes all around. What can they bring? Singapore still looking for the line that's going to bring them closer, and you'd have to say that this game is out of their reach. They're 22 goals behind, but they would dearly love to finish off this match, the final match of the qualification round, just by winning a quarter. And that's what you have to do when you're in this situation, is just to set goals that are a bit different from maybe winning the match. Try to achieve things that set you up for the next phase of competition. They'll go into playoff mode over the next 2 days, Singapore.
These could find themselves up against, once again, Sri Lanka, which is the team that they have had the one win over way back at the beginning of the competition. We're getting ahead of ourselves there, because really there's so much more coming today. England versus South Africa follows this match. New Zealand, Uganda, and then the last match of the day, Australia, Wales. So there's a pretty good crowd building here at Sydney Olympic Park.
Well done, Margaret Mutafella. Twinkle toes along that transverse line, trying not to go offside. Little look away pass then from Diana Banda. A little bit cheeky, but the Singaporean defence, they're up to it. They've had enough passes put past them like that today, so they've got their eyes up and they're ready.
Oh, Mutafella, well done. She's got pretty good footwork for a 45-year-old.
So you'll have to excuse me, our initial team list was wrong. Mei Ling Yu still sitting back at goal shooter, so Hui Fin Chen has gone from the court, and Charmaine So at goal attack. That's a beautiful ball just over the top of Lily Chen. So split circle being played here. And the difference between a split circle that Singapore are doing at the moment in the zone is that your wing defence and your centre still play a one-on-one game out the front, and you simply split the goal defence and the goalkeeper at the back. So it's just another attempt by Singapore to stem the flow, and it's a good move.
Yeah, good to see them trying things. I mean, they're more than 20 goals adrift. It's Coe in centre now.
Wing attack. Wing attack.
Wanza on the deck. She perhaps got a bit of a whack on the head. He's not sure where to put the ice. Yes, now he knows. Oh, perhaps got a poke in the eye. She's another one of the younger members of the team, Joyce Mwanza. She's 22. They've come out very strongly in this last quarter, 5-0. sure what happened there. Didn't look as though her head got hurt, but obviously she is all right again. Singapore will carry on as they seek their first goal in this fourth quarter. I wonder if she's played a little bit of volleyball, Margaret Mutafello. A couple of times we've seen terrific spikes out the back.
Yeah, she's got a really great vertical leap, but she's very tidy with the body. She goes up straight with the body. Often if you get a contest from behind, what the umpires don't like is if you jump forward into the player in front of you, whereas she goes straight up and just reaches through almost with her fingertips, and that's why she's been able to get a hand to some of those balls and not drawn the whistle.
Advantage contact with defense.
Does it look like Banda had got there before before Lily Chen? Wanza puts her hand through, contacts as she does so. Singapore moved through to 30. The problem is Zambia has 55. Singapore hosted the World Cup 4 years ago, made the most of that honour, I suppose, of hosting the event 4 years away. I think it's off to Liverpool. Apparently they made some presentation here in Sydney a few days ago, the officials from Liverpool, and people came away very impressed.
So a replay call against Charmaine Mi Ling Yu. Tried to be a little bit cute, but the umpire deemed that she had possession before she let it bounce around.
Advantage contact on attack.
Pramila Hirumalan making it very clear that it's 30 seconds only. She is on the ball, and 30 seconds only, and this player must be replaced.
Oh, it almost like the hand in the eye, perhaps, for Yvonne Kaholo. And yes, away she goes. No, she's coming. Yes, the umpire's trying.
So the change has got to be made. Zambia need a goal defence to come onto the court.
And this is just a lack of experience, really, of international play, knowing all these little finer points of the rule book.
And that's where netball, you really need to know your rules around the timeouts and around the things that you can and can't do in a timeout situation. And there's been plenty of situations where coaches have been caught unawares.
Yes, and it's not just the countries too that perhaps don't get as much international play. Certainly the big ones in past years have got caught out.
I recall a game in the Commonwealth Games for the gold medal final in 1998, and New Zealand got caught out a bit on a timeout. Jill McIntosh is a coach who absolutely studies the rules and knows exactly how they apply, and pulled a bit of a change that the New Zealand coach wasn't happy about, but it was well within the rules, and it was just one of those little sub-rules. So, pays to know your rule book. Oh, great delivery there. Kimberly Lim, she's battled all day.
And Agnes Chingumbo now at goalkeep. beaming as she stands down.
Well, she started off the game at goalkeeper, Agnes Chinkambo, and ran down the court and high-fived all her opposition, so she's happy to be here. It's gorgeous.
Yeah, you were talking about the rule book. There's another thing I understand that the big top brass of World Netball are trying to do is to get that far smaller than it used to be, fine-tune things. I think a lot of sports are doing the same with their own rule books.
We talked earlier about the rule change, Jen, there's been a number of rule changes. One is about not having to be wholly within the centre circle, and someone on Twitter asked me to explain it, but it's pretty self-explanatory. At the moment, when the whistle blows, both the centre court players' feet must be within, or the centre players' feet must be inside that centre circle, which really sometimes takes away the speed of some of the centres. They want to run it in quickly, and this allows that to happen.
And I guess a lot of the changes to the rules are really, they're just a matter of keeping up with the game. The game has changed so much, it's become so much faster. It just needs to be reviewed all the time.
Yeah, it does. And, you know, every time players innovate or coaches innovate, then people talk about whether you need to change the rules. And with the Harrison hoist, chairlift, that happened a couple of years ago, there was so much conjecture about, well, should it be allowed? Of course it should be allowed. And the fact that it is so difficult means that there's no point outlawing it, because if it was easy, everyone would do it all the time.
That's right, and as has happened, I mean, that was, what, 2-3 years ago now, and I think some people thought, oh my goodness, everyone's going to be doing it, and of course that just hasn't happened.
No, it hasn't. You need one defender who's big and strong and one defender who's built like a toothpick, and not every team can boast that.
Anna Harrison making a return to the ANZ Championship next year.
Speaking of built like a toothpick. That was a great innovation, to see her go up in the air and sitting on the sideline and to see the height. It was so exciting.
Contact goalkeeper.
Really, that's the story of the day for Singapore. 62% shooting.
Charmaine So, who's just been incredibly consistent for Singapore through the course of this tournament. Really, for her to be shooting at 7 from 12, probably does sum up their day. Jen, just quickly, the other day we were talking about players getting corkies, and you reckon it wasn't called corky in New Zealand. You found the answer.
I have, because I knew there was a different word, and it's come from someone on high, Anna Robury. It's a Charlie.
A Charlie?
A Charlie.
Why is it called a Charlie?
Well, I don't know. I think it might have something to do with Charlie horse.
What's a
if
Charlie
you give
horse?
a Charlie horse, that's when you sort of get somebody above the knee with your hand, and sort of like a little horse bite.
Is that like lizards, gizzards?
Well, I don't know about those.
But, you know, it's the same sort of thing.
But, yeah, and so, oh, I see what you mean. Yes. Anyway, it's certainly a Charlie.
A Charlie. Corky in Australia, Charlie in New Zealand. I wonder if anyone knows what do other countries call it?
England will probably have a different name again.
Send us a message.
Caribbean countries, something again.
There's to be something really cool, as opposed to corky, which you say through your nose, because it's Aussie. I've just been told that England call it a dead leg. I would have thought they would have said it's a blunt force trauma.
Dead leg. That sounds something like the Pirates would have used to said.
Dead leg.
Well, good to have that sorted anyway.
Yes, we answer the big questions here on the Netball World Cup commentary. If you're losing sleep, you're okay now.
Advantage offside.
So what's been impressive about Zambia, Jen, is that they have played incredibly consistently. Sometimes when teams come out and absolutely blitz it in that first half, there's a tendency to drop away, but they have not done that. It's their 15th goal for the quarter, and the quarter time, or the quarter breakdowns have gone 14, 17, 18, 15. The best quarter for Singapore was the second, and they scored 12 goals. Up to 7 for this quarter.
Now, I have to say, I am surprised by the performance of Singapore. They simply haven't got going in this game.
Red, goal effect.
You go into the final 2 minutes, 30 goals now between them, and mistakes like that.
Well, to one explanation is that Singapore are flat. The other explanation is that Zambia have outplayed them, and they've forced them into errors. And defensively, they've been incredibly good at that. They've chased down ball, and Zambia simply haven't coughed up possession.
Oh, that's great play.
Great play. That is so clever. So Joyce Mwanza just had her eye up, and it was a beautiful delivery to Jerry, and she finished it off with a little tip to Diana Bunda.
Oh, Mickey Lynn went through. Now they're finishing in style, Zambia.
Just watch that. Clever play. Little flick on.
Coaches of Zambia will be well pleased with their effort here. They are about to get their first win of this World Cup.
Well done. Oh, deserved to be finished. Sajero just kept the ball in. Margaret midfielder having none of that. Wants her team to finish off.
The ball beats everyone, and now the clock beats them as well. Zambia get their first win in Sydney. Too strong for Singapore, 67-36.